Eat them!
One of the most controversial figures of the Roman Empire, Caligula, went down in history not only for his cruelty, but also for his outrageous actions. But what exactly made this man the mad emperor? From marrying his sisters to appointing his horse as a senator, a series of events turned his reign into a tale of fear and terror, and these were just the beginning. Stay tuned to find out what happened. At the start of the 1st century, the Roman Empire ruled vast territories and was at the peak of its wealth. It was an empire adorned with massive monuments and magnificent buildings. However, like every empire, Rome also witnessed relentless struggles for the throne and dirty political games. The streets and avenues of Republican Rome had been stained with blood countless times. Even Julius Caesar, one of history's greatest rulers, had been assassinated by his own Senate 56 years before Caligula was born. Amidst this wealth and ambition, Caligula was born in 12 AD in the city of Antium. His full name was Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. His father, Germanicus, was a successful Roman general. From the moment of his birth, his life revolved around Roman legion camps near the Rhine River. By the age of 4, he had become the mascot of the legion. Caligula's reputation was growing alongside his father's fame. Soldiers greatly enjoyed seeing little Gaius dressed in a miniature military uniform and sandals, armed by his mother Agrippina. It was the legionaries who gave him the name Caligula, which derived from the sandals that were part of his military attire. Believing him to be lucky, the soldiers wanted him to join their campaigns. The successes of his father Germanicus did not go unnoticed by his uncle Tiberius. Without realizing it, Caligula was being drawn into chaos. In 19 AD, when Caligula was just 7 years old, his father Germanicus suddenly fell ill and died. While his death appeared natural, his mother Agrippina accused Tiberius of murder. However, Emperor Augustus did not believe these accusations. By the year 29 AD, Augustus had passed away, and the throne was now in the hands of Tiberius, who held absolute power. Caligula was 17 years old, and Tiberius was the emperor. One of Tiberius' first actions was to exile Caligula's mother, Agrippina, and her daughters. Agrippina still blamed Tiberius for her husband's death and was scheming political plots. Tiberius sent Caligula as a hostage to live with his mother, Livia. Although Tiberius actually liked Caligula, he knew that both the people and the soldiers admired him, which posed a threat to his own throne. To secure his position, Tiberius kept Caligula away from the capital. On the island of Capri, Caligula lived a comfortable life, receiving education, indulging with the slaves he desired, and leading a life of entertainment. Historians even recount that he hosted homosexual parties on the island. However, since these accounts were written after Caligula's death, they might be mere rumors. Yet, considering his future lifestyle, it is not hard to believe that Caligula had such extravagant tendencies. Years passed, and while Tiberius consolidated his rule and grew older, Caligula's mother died in exile after refusing to eat. During this time, Caligula faced numerous threats to his life, as it was still uncertain who would succeed Tiberius. Other generals and noble children were also candidates, and many were executed during this period. Caligula could have been one of them, but he acted wisely, always complying with Tiberius's wishes and becoming his favorite. Tiberius appointed him as quaestor, granting him control over the state's financial income and expenses. This role allowed Caligula to witness the hardships faced by the public, understand their needs, and devise solutions to regulate the economy. In a way, he was preparing himself for the imperial throne. In 37 AD, Tiberius died. Before his death, he had named his grandson, Tiberius Gemellus, and his nephew, Caligula, as his heirs. Roman politics was once again thrown into chaos until Tiberius's military commander, Macro, intervened. Macro smothered Tiberius's grandson, Gemellus, with a pillow, eliminating him as a rival. The people, Senate, and military were already in favor of Caligula. On March 28, 37 AD, Caligula ascended to the throne. Sources describe his first 3 years as a very successful period. It is recorded that during the first 7 months of his reign, 160,000 animals were sacrificed and distributed to the people. He pardoned those in exile and paid the missing wages of the guards. These actions revived hope among the populace, and they began calling Caligula the Sun. Additionally, his relationship with the Senate was excellent. He published bulletins informing the public about the state's affairs. During this time, the Temple of Augustus and the Theater of Pompey, whose construction had begun under Tiberius, were completed. Rome returned to a life of abundance and splendor. However, this prosperity would not last long, as Rome was always rife with intrigue. Towards the end of 37 AD, Caligula fell ill with a fever. The only historian to describe this illness, Philo, claimed that Caligula contracted a virus due to his frequent bathing, heavy drinking, and sexual activity after becoming emperor. While everyone thought he would die, Caligula survived. However, when his physical illness healed, it transformed into a mental illness. Historian Howard Hayes Scullard stated, "Caligula emerged from his illness as a lustful monster and a diabolical tyrant. The first signs of this transformation appeared in 39 AD, when Caligula dismissed or reassigned consuls without consulting the Senate. He publicly humiliated several senators by forcing them to run beside his chariot in their official attire. This incident was the first indication to the public that their beloved emperor had changed. Following this, Caligula became consumed by fear of assassination. It was the first time he had clashed with the Senate, and he was well aware of the fate of emperors who had fallen out with the Senate in the past. No matter how successful an emperor was, opposing the senators could lead to his demise. These thoughts made Caligula increasingly paranoid. He began to suffer from insomnia, unable to sleep at night. When he did manage to fall asleep, he would wake up from nightmares. Later, Caligula dismissed General Macro, who had helped him ascend to the throne, blaming him for his illness. Soon after, he removed many high-ranking officials from their positions. In their place, he appointed young aristocrats who lacked any talent or had merely achieved fame in gladiatorial games. Rumors began to spread among the people. Yet, there was one thing they didn't know. This was just the beginning. Caligula's cruelty escalated further as he began forcing random spectators at gladiatorial games to fight wild animals without any weapons. He also continued to humiliate Senate members by forcing their wives into his chambers, and later openly recounting the details of these encounters to the entire council. Additionally, he started auctioning off the wives of some senators to the highest bidders. Caligula's sexual life became increasingly debauched, involving women, men, the elderly, and the young. His depravity did not stop there. He forcibly married his sister Drusilla, whom he declared to be the most beautiful, and fathered children with her. Unfortunately, these children did not survive. He subjected Drusilla to years of abuse in his desire for her to give birth to a healthy heir of his own bloodline. According to some accounts, Drusilla died during childbirth, while others claim she succumbed to illness. Caligula was deeply affected by her death, declaring her a goddess and commanding the entire empire to pray for her. He also ordered temples to be built in her honor. Caligula coerced a respected aristocrat, Silanus, into cutting his own throat and committing suicide, convinced that Silanus was a traitor. During this time, he also proclaimed himself a god, dressing as one and issuing impossible commands. Temples were constructed in his name, and he famously appointed his beloved horse, Incitatus, as a senator. He ordered a marble stable and golden feed troughs to be provided for the horse and demanded that decisions be consulted with the animal. Historical sources even describe how Caligula roamed the palace corridors at night, issuing commands for the sun to rise. Caligula squandered the fortune left by Tiberius on his indulgences and whims. Even the expenses of feeding the wild animals in the arenas became a burden on the empire. These animals were fed with captured prisoners, or at times senators. Grain warehouses that once distributed food to the public were shut down. He began addressing senators' petitions while riding in a chariot, forcing them to run after him to be heard. His paranoia about assassination reached its peak, leading him to execute everyone he suspected, including his own adopted children. As the imperial treasury was completely depleted, Caligula began collecting donations from the public, claiming it was a divine tribute. He introduced a new law that decreed the inheritance of deceased senators would go to the emperor, effectively increasing the number of senator deaths. Even the gods of Greece did not escape Caligula's derangement. He ordered that all statues of gods throughout the empire have their heads removed and brought to Rome, intending to replace them with his own likeness. Caligula had become a figure hated by the public and targeted for assassination by the Senate. The Roman Empire had never seen such a tyrant in its history. Caligula attributed the hostility of the people and the Senate to his lack of military victories. Yes, he was a god, an emperor, but he had yet to conquer any land. He ordered his army to prepare for an invasion of Britain, and preparations began. Reluctantly, the army set off for Britain. When they reached the English Channel, the soldiers refused to cross the sea. Despite Caligula's commands and threats of punishment, he could not compel them to obey. However, a divine emperor could not return to Rome without a victory. He needed a triumph. So, he ordered the entire army to collect seashells on the shore. The army, at least, was willing to comply with this absurd command. All the seashells on the beach were gathered and declared as spoils of war. Caligula returned to Rome, claiming victory over Neptune, the god of the sea, and presenting the seashells as his war booty. He had, in his mind, defeated a god. This failed military campaign enraged the capital. The impoverished populace learned of an army returning without true spoils. Meanwhile, the senators had already begun plotting against him. Sensing the possibility of assassination, Caligula did not immediately return to the city after the campaign. He camped with his soldiers near Rome for about 3 months, conducting small operations to capture and execute those suspected of plotting against him. Yet by this point, there was no one left who did not harbor hatred for Caligula. Believing he had quelled any rebellion, Caligula eventually entered the city, though his enemies remained numerous. In 41 AD, while watching games at the arena, Caligula decided to leave under the pretense of taking a bath and head to his palace. Underground tunnels connected the arena to the palace, designed for the safety and convenience of important individuals. These tunnels, however, were desolate. As Caligula made his way through the tunnel, he was ambushed by a group of Roman soldiers and killed on the spot. He is said to have been struck by hundreds of blows from knives and swords. In the end, Caligula, who had believed himself a god, died as a mere mortal. Most of what we know about Caligula today comes from the accounts of Suetonius, who wrote about him approximately 80 years after his death, as well as from Cassius Dio, Tacitus, and the records of Seneca, who described him as a monster. Both his contemporaries and some modern historians regard Caligula as a sociopath, unable to control his ambitions and desires, an arrogant yet incompetent ruler, and a mentally unstable emperor. Thank you for watching our video. Please don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts about Caligula in the comments. Subscribe to our channel to stay updated on new episodes.